I played the demo for low budget repairs, and this is one of those games where the idea immediately makes sense. You are a handyman in Poland with basically no experience, trying to fix up a rundown house, take on repair jobs, cut corners, save materials, and get paid while doing as little proper work as possible. And to make things even stranger, you're guided by the ghost of your former boss, who is basically there to teach you the true art of low budget repair. Straight away, the concept is funny, the tone is clear. This is not trying to be a serious repair simulator where you carefully restore houses to a professional standard. The whole joke is that you're doing questionable work, using questionable methods, and somehow try to call it a job well done. But after finishing the demo, I was left with one main question. Did the demo actually do enough to sell me on the full game? Because the idea is definitely interesting, and there is some funny moments here and there, but I'm not fully sure the demo shows enough of what this game could become. So what is low budget repairs? The demo starts with you arriving in a small Polish town after your Aunt Elena, who lives in America and who you're not seeing in the longest of times, leaves you a house. At first, that sounds like a decent deal. Free house, new town, fresh start. But when you actually get there, the place is in terrible condition. It is run down, messy, clearly abandoned for a long time. And before you even think about fixing it up, you have to deal with a couple of squatters who have been living there while the house was empty. The opening already gives you a good feel for the tone of the game. You meet some of the locals, you get a few strange and funny interactions, and the whole thing has this rough, scrappy, slightly ridiculous energy to it. Eventually, you're introduced to Mr. Zbizek, a friend of your auntie's, who is supposed to be a proper handyman, and someone that can help you restore the house. But instead of him just fixing everything for you, you end up working with him and helping him out with a few small repair jobs. And that's where the game starts to show what it really is. It's not a serious handyman simulator about doing clean, professional work. It is more about doing cheap, questionable repairs, cutting corners, using as little material as possible, and somehow still getting paid at the end. And the game is clearly leaning into that dodgy local handyman caricature. The kind of guy who is crafty, lazy, probably not fully sober, and always looking for the cheapest, quickest way to make something look finished just long enough to get paid. It isn't subtle, but that's also the point. The whole joke is built around cutting corners, doing half a job, acting like you're good enough, and somehow treating that as a proper trade. There's Bizek is a big part of that. He feels like the perfect character to introduce you to this world. Crafty, lazy, a bit dodgy, and very committed to the art of doing the bare minimum. Then after a work accident, he dies and becomes a ghost, which is where the game gets even sillier. From that point on, he basically becomes your ghostly guide to the world of low-budget repairs. In terms of the actual demo content, you complete a few basic jobs, cleaning up, painting, throwing furniture out of the window, and doing some wall repairs, and eventually get into a bit of tiling. But honestly, the thing that stands out the most early on is not the complexity of the jobs, it's the personality of the game. The funny local interactions, the dodgy repair attitude, the ridiculous setup, and the whole idea of learning handyman work from a ghost are what gives this demo its charm. And this is where I think the demo runs into a bit of a problem. The concept is good, and the tone of the game is genuinely entertaining. I like the idea of a dodgy handyman simulator where the whole point is cutting corners, saving materials, doing the bare minimum, and still trying to get paid. The actual content of the demo is very basic. It introduces a general idea, but I do not think it does the best job at selling the full game loop. That is especially noticeable because the trailer made the game look really interesting to me. When I first saw it, I was quite excited by the idea. It looked like there would be a whole system around bad repairs, cheap materials, cutting corners, and trying to get away with doing questionable work. And to be fair, the demo does hint to that. The balcony job is probably the best example, because you start mixing tile adhesive and the game shows you that you can use less material, change the consistency, and potentially stretch the resources further. And also space tiles out in a way that uses less tiles, which fits in the whole low budget repairs idea perfectly. That is the part where I thought, okay, this can become interesting. But the demo never really pushes that idea far enough. Does not properly show what the challenge of the game is going to be. Are you fighting against time? Are you trying to stay under budget? Is the money going to be tight? Are customers going to notice bad work? Are there consequences if you cut too many corners? The demo does not really answer those questions. It gives you a glimpse of the mechanics, but not enough context around why it matters. You can see the idea, but you do not really feel the pressure of the system yet. And that is my main issue. I'm not saying the game looks bad, because I still think the idea is there. The trailer suggests there is more to it, and the comedy side definitely works. But, as a demo, I do not think they fully showcase the strengths of the game, beyond the funny concept and the general tone. It feels like the demo ends before the more interesting part of the gameplay has a chance to properly develop. To be fair, the demo does hint that there is a bigger game underneath all of this. At the end, you get introduced to the idea of the Super Handyman 95 contest, which seems like it could be a bigger part of the story. From what the game suggests, this is not just a simple competition where everyone shows up and does honest repair work. There seems to be something dodgy going on behind it, with local handymen, questionable practices, and people trying to win by cutting corners or playing the system. And honestly, that fits the tone of the game really well. There is clearly a bigger satirical idea here. Dodgy contractors, cheap repairs, local reputation, people pretending to be skilled professionals, and a whole world built around doing the least amount of proper work while calling yourself a craftsman. That is the part I find interesting, because if the game leans into this properly, it could be more than just a silly repair simulator. It could become this weird, scrappy, comedy driven handyman story where every job is not about fixing something, but also about figuring out how cheaply, badly, and questionably you can get away with doing it. So, overall, I think low budget repairs have a genuinely fun concept. The humor is there. Mr. Zbizek is a funny character, and the idea of being a low budget handyman, cutting corners for money, is definitely something that caught my attention. But as a demo, I do not think they fully sold me on the game loop yet. It shows the personality of the game really well, but it does not show enough of the depth behind the mechanics. I wanted to see a little bit more of the pressure, the trade offs, the consequences, and the reason why saving materials or doing a worse job actually matters. So I'm not writing this game off at all. I like the trailer, I like the idea, and I do think there's potential here. But the demo left me more curious than convinced. I will still keep an eye on low budget repairs because the concept is strong. The full game could easily have more going on than the demo shows. But based on the demo alone, I would say this is a funny idea with a lot of personality. And now I just need to see whether the full game can turn this into a satisfying gameplay loop. And really, this is the question for me. Is this just a funny concept, or is there enough repair chaos to carry the full game forward?